business always grows until its next bottleneck. How to survive the crucial first steps of entrepreneurship when you have a startup that you're trying to grow, and what to do. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Erkka Suvanto. Some of you call me EJ. I'm the guy on social media who wants to build a legacy for his kids and pass on all the life and business lessons to each and every one of you. Startups, they often struggle when it comes to taking off, growing the business at the outset, because those first few months, the first year, is very crucial in terms of surviving. The old saying goes like this: our business always grows until its next bottleneck. Identifying that bottleneck, whether it's the entrepreneur himself or herself, or the idea or the execution capabilities of the team, is sometimes hard. And when we grow the business, the bottlenecks change. Sometimes in the beginning, when we are under $1 million in revenue, usually a good rule of thumb is that we need to promote and market our business more because nobody knows we exist. I'm on the same boat again, now with my third business starting from scratch. I started my career as an entrepreneur 15 years ago when I started my first real estate company. That was my first reset. My second reset came when we moved from the US back to Europe, and I started another business from scratch. And now I decided to pivot again and start a business coaching program, an information business, where I help people, entrepreneurs, when it comes to their personal and business lives, using these channels and these messages as my tool, as my platform for that. So I'm on the same boat. I need to tackle the exact same challenges that I had to face 15 years ago. What did I do back then? Well, my recipe was pretty straightforward and simple. Even though I didn't have any playbook to follow, I kind of knew, my intuition told me that since nobody knew I existed, I was a new player in town in a new industry, I had to do everything in my power to market myself, let people know I exist. And that's the exact same thing that every single business owner, entrepreneur needs to do in the beginning. Nobody knows our products or services are out there. That's why we are small. So all our efforts in the beginning go towards sales, marketing, and promoting the business. But sometimes when we grow, when we are able to pass that critical first phase, we start growing the team, hiring people, the bottlenecks change. And the difficulty then is that we need to identify those bottlenecks again and again. And the old rules don't apply anymore. And sometimes tackling and solving those problems require different skill sets, and they require different people. And that's why growing our business is super hard. To keep it simple, every business in the beginning has two types of risks. There's the risk of idea and the execution. An idea risk is something that has not been tested in the marketplace before. If I were to invent a new piece of technology that would potentially revolutionize, or was supposed to revolutionize, the social media market, that would be a new idea. There would be unknown factors when it comes to technology, potentially regulation, legislation, and a lot of things that would be at play when it comes to predicting how it's going to do in the marketplace. So a lot of variables that are not necessarily in our hands. Whereas an execution risk is something that every single business has to face anyhow. So either you are starting a new business with one or two of these two. If I wanted to start a dry cleaning business, that idea has been tested before, but the execution part is unknown. It's very difficult to grow a business in the beginning. We will be facing a lot of uncertainty. So how can I eliminate as many growth blockers as possible so that my runway is clear and predictable? And using this airplane analogy here might actually be very useful. If you think about it, if I was a captain of a plane preparing for takeoff, what would I want? I would want predictability. I would want to make sure that I communicate my route, my intentions well with the air traffic controller beforehand. That's the same as marketing in the beginning when we are small. We let people know, stakeholders, potential customers, everybody around us, what we want to do, what our business is all about. The same way the captain lets the air traffic controller know what we want to do with the plane. That's the same as marketing, the process of making known. Then, do we want to test a new runway that nobody has tested before? We don't know how the winds are impacting the plane and how smooth the takeoff would be on that new runway. Or would we want to stay in line knowing that our spot is number 8 and wait for our turn and use the old runway that the captain has landed on and has taken off from several times? That's the same as idea and execution. So if we eliminate all the variables in the beginning when it comes to idea and just focus on execution, what would the captain do with the plane? The captain would want, obviously, a clear runway, predictable wind conditions, and then when it's finally his or her turn, that person would go flat out and just focus on execution only. And then once the plane is airborne, then maybe introduce different variables. So that's how I want to look at business too. So how can I focus in the beginning all my efforts on making the takeoff, the startup phase, as predictable as possible? So not necessarily introducing too many new ideas. Focus on doing what works and then later on introducing those new ideas. That's how I want to look at it. And understanding the beginning that and knowing that since we are all by ourselves, it's basically the capability of the founder, the business owner. And then it comes back to accountability, knowing that all the answers are in the mirror. So if we can't grow the business in the beginning, we can only blame ourselves. The point is not to blame anybody, but the point is to be responsible and accountable. That's how I want to prepare my plane for takeoff, focusing on execution, and then later on, one at a time, one new introduction, one new innovation at a time, bring new elements into the business. That's how I did my startup phase back in the day 15 years ago. That's how I plan on doing it today. I'm entering a crowded marketplace with my information business. I know that very well. How can I differentiate myself? How can I make sure that my takeoff is smooth? I do it by stating the facts and telling the truth. I'm going to tell people what worked for me based on my 25 or 30 years of professional experience. And that's how I can differentiate myself. I won't make any empty promises. I will make good promises and keep them all, stating the facts and telling the truth. Founder as the only variable. That's what it boils down to. If I think about some of the key success factors when it comes to being accountable and being responsible, what comes to my mind? Well, number one, oftentimes people like to blame others. We like to blame those market conditions, regulation, legislation, other people, employees, or the market just simply wasn't ready, or we are in a different market, so that's why we couldn't succeed. I like to look at it as a way that I can always be better. It's a hard way to handle it sometimes, but if you are super accountable by default, or if you learn how to be super accountable, I think it's a very relieving way of living your life, to be perfectly honest. Because we don't waste any time blaming other people. We can always look ourselves in the mirror and say, okay, look, this didn't work out. It's fine. Even if my employee screwed up, at the end of the day, it's my problem. It's my responsibility because I hired these people. But as far as getting better as a founder, as a business owner, I like to ask two types of questions from people who are close to me. Fellow business owners, mentors, or friends. People who can truly help me and who understand my objectives. The question number one is that, what is it that I should know that I don't know based on your opinion? Answering that question basically gives me an opportunity to look at things from another perspective. Talking to somebody who's done it before, who's ahead of me, who's better than me as an entrepreneur, or who understands the industry, who can add value to my own journey is very beneficial. And that person might have a different opinion than what my own beliefs are. And hearing from that person is very beneficial. What is it that I should know that I don't know? The second question is this. What would you tell me if you knew that I didn't get upset? Oftentimes our emotions are stopping us from seeing the truth. I'm no different. Real talk here. To me, it's always been difficult to separate insults from criticism. Insult is basically me telling or somebody telling me that, look, you suck. Whereas criticism is the same as saying, hey, you promised this, but you delivered this. So there's a gap. What's going on? It's nothing personal. And my struggle in the past has been not being able to identify or differentiate, I should say, these two. So I took criticism as a personal insult many times. I didn't necessarily take it personally, but my way of handling that was that I potentially threw something back that maybe looked more as an insult because I couldn't handle the criticism. Why? It's always related to personal insecurities. People often label it under perfectionism. I don't believe that. I think perfectionism is another way of saying that we have personal insecurities because we don't want to admit those. We all have them, and we react differently to them. Some people hide, some people run away, some people get all offensive, and some people start a verbal attack and all of that. I've always been on the aggressive side when it comes to having that conversation. What helped me in overcoming that shortcoming? Well, there's no other way to me than facing the fear and facing that criticism. That's one of the main reasons why I wanted to put myself out here and face the criticism of being on social media with my own name and my own face. And trust me, there's plenty of feedback, people DMing you and telling you that you don't necessarily know what you're talking about. But that's part of being in this game. And even though it's hard, I still want to do it because I actually enjoy it, believe it or not. And most importantly, I know that that's the only way how I can get better. I believe that you have to face every single problem in life. And I don't think I've ever avoided anything. But looking back now, I can see that this social media thing or not putting myself out there subject to criticism has been one way of hiding and running away from those personal insecurities. I'm not going to hide anything. If I want to be honest, state the facts and tell the truth that I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago about that being my differentiating factor and a competitive advantage, telling people what has worked for me so that somebody else can get something out of it too. I need to be super honest myself. So how is this related to a startup company growing? This is related to startup companies and their growth in a very significant way, and that is the founder being oftentimes the limiting factor. When the founder can face his or her own fears and understand why is it we don't take certain action, why is it that so many people don't market in the beginning, even though every marketing book tells you to do it? How many hours are you dedicating to marketing and promoting your business in the beginning? You should do it as your first priority. Why is it that people don't do it? They want to grow their business, make more money, get more customers, get more free time, whatever the goal is. The answer, I believe, is that we have fears, we have insecurities, and we rather do something else. Not too many people who want to start a business, they don't come from the sales and marketing background, or the idea is not related to that. They are natural at maybe developing products or doing something else. There are those who are very good at talking to people and promoting their business. It's part of their DNA, but not so many. So that's why we kind of try to stay away from those uncomfortable conversations and areas of life. But I think the only way how to grow a business and how to grow as a person is to face those fears. Not sweep anything under the rug, but face everything and then see how it goes and get used to it. Get good at it that way because there's no other way. It's like playing football, playing tennis, wanting to get better at it. Practice makes you perfect. That's a good way to end this video today, tying it back to the founder understanding what the strengths and weaknesses are so that we don't limit the business growth because of our personal shortcomings. I'm a good example of that. I'm doing my very best in overcoming all of my personal shortcomings, and I will tell about those to you guys so that we can be on this journey together. And I'm now documenting my life, my third reset as an entrepreneur. And I think it's very interesting to see how I can overcome my own shortcomings as part of my journey. Thanks again for watching. It was my pleasure again. Until next time.